Happy Monday to y'all. You know, I was looking over the weekend and I was kind of thinking all weekend about this show today. And I was having a heck of a time bringing it together because there's so much happening and everything is such a mess. But I think underlying a lot of what's happening is this overriding theme of censorship we're seeing, right? Whether it's Maha, whether it's the Iran war, these are two of the most profoundly important issues that we're seeing everywhere. But if you talk about either one, you find yourself censored and suppressed. And I think that is a crucial thing. We're seeing the failures of everything in this kind of Maha slash election slash this slash that. I mean, it's just a mess. It's an absolute disaster. So we're going to dig into that pretty deeply today. Meanwhile, we also have a crazy amount of fraud occurring in this California election, which I think is really a phenomenal thing. So we're going to touch on that as well, because we're watching election fraud occur in real time, and it's just something that is just I don't know. I mean, guys, it's insane to me. It really is. But before we get into any of that, I want to open up with, of course, my appreciation for Pride Month, because God knows we love hearing about people who like wieners or don't like wieners and what they do in their bedroom here. And since that is the way things are now, and everybody just loves thinking about wieners or not wieners, we're going to open up with a little bit of a story about HelloFresh. Have any of you guys been following this from HelloFresh? So over the weekend, it came out, and there's now a boycott on HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a food delivery service that really is, frankly, kind of gay anyways. I mean, they're like, I don't know, they're like veggie, I don't know, fruity type, whatever stuff that I don't eat. If it's not a dead animal, I really don't want it. I am a huge fan of eating dead animals, not Bill Gates' factory formed cancer meat, an actual real life dead animal, not a real live dead animal, because that would be an oxymoron. I like the dead cows on my plate. A big fat steak is what I love. And, HelloFresh doesn't do a whole lot of that. But that said, so HelloFresh, right? I want to kind of show this. Mike, can we pop this up on the screen? We've got HelloFresh draws boycott over crude pride post. Crude is a bit of an understatement. Let me show you what this is. It's not hard to find. It's everywhere. Here we're going to pull this up. And this is their official statement. I'm sorry, this is the wrong one. Here it is. We know eating isn't always a top priority this month. We respect that. But for those of you who are ... prepping, we have an extensive lineup for high fiber recipes available. Happy Pride. Now, I got to tell you something, guys. I didn't understand this when I first saw it. The reason I didn't understand it is, believe it or not, I really am not, my life is not preoccupied with butt sex. But, and you're going to have to forgive the crudeness here. We're going to be crude because this is a very crude issue. But apparently, if you're interested in butt sex, which is kind of a thing if you're a gay dude, you do what's called prepping. Now, I've never heard of prepping, but let me tell you a little bit about something that you never thought you'd have to hear about or never wanted to hear about if you're me, but apparently you do. So you see here, how about a Pride Month discount code bottoms up? Use code bottoms up for Pride Month discount regarding. So I again, none of this was registering to me. And so as a service to you, my listeners, I want you to know a little bit about this so that you can throw up in your mouth as much as I did. So HelloFresh is actually referencing a gay thing, which or maybe it's not just gay. I mean, maybe anybody who really likes doing butt stuff is doing this. I really don't know. I got to be honest with you, this isn't my cup of tea. But if you are super interested in butt sex, this is your show. We are here to educate you on butt sex. So I talked to Grok a little bit because I didn't really understand this. And so, you know what? I'm just going to share. I normally don't share my Grok stuff, but I want to share this Grok conversation because it's incredible to me that I actually saw this, that I asked the question or anything else. And by the way, this wasn't the first question I asked. I had to do some homework because I didn't understand any of this. And I'm guessing those of you listening probably are in the same category. If you are not into butt sex, you would not know this, but this is apparently a thing. So let me share. Mike, let's put this up on the screen because I don't want people to say I'm making this up. So I asked at the very top, I said, is prepping for butt sex, like referenced in HelloFresh controversy, a real thing? And I asked the question because, frankly, I was, every time I see this, I'm throwing up in my mouth. This is all, by the way, me making the case. Please boycott HelloFresh. Please make sure people know that HelloFresh is now gay butt sex central. And that's who they are. That's what they support. And, go ahead. If you're into that, go ahead and support them. I, however, am not that I was ever going to be a subscriber to HelloFresh, but if you are a subscriber to HelloFresh, this is one of the benefits that they're proposing. I guess this is from a marketing perspective, a consumer benefit that they're trying to tout. So I say, is prepping for butt sex, like referenced in HelloFresh controversy, a real thing? And the answer says, yes, it's a real thing. The HelloFresh controversy refers to their recent Pride Month Instagram post, joking about prepping with high-fiber recipes. Many interpreted prepping as a reference to preparing for anal sex, specifically bottoming, which sparked backlash for being crude or reductive. Now, bottoming, they get the bottoms-up code. So that's where that all comes from. I know that you guys are super interested, so I want to make sure you're educated so that when you're, because you're probably hanging out in lots of circles with lots of gay pride friends, so I want you guys to be aware. That way you can speak in an educated fashion. Prepping, what prepping means in this context. In gay and queer communities, especially among men who have receptive anal sex, which I guess is like, in Lindsey Graham terms, it's when you're the receiver. Just by the way, don't forget to send men's hormone support to Lindsey Graham. He desperately needs it. But gay queer communities, especially among receptive, prepping commonly includes hygiene and diet steps to feel cleaner, reduce mess, and make things more comfortable. It's not universal. Plenty of people don't do much beyond showering, but it's a well-known practice. Okay, I'm already grossed out and throwing up, but there's more. Key elements include diet and fiber. Eating high fiber fruits, veggies, oats, beans, etc. helps produce firmer, more complete bowel movements and keep things cleaner naturally. This reduces residue in the rectum, which is a butthole for those of you that don't know. Many recommend soluble fiber like psyllium supplements such as Metamucil Daily for ongoing gut health. Some adjust intake the day before, more fiber for regularity, but sometimes low residue foods right before to minimize bulk. Okay, so who knew that gay butt sex was going to be a maha thing? Keeping yourself healthy and your gut aligned, right? Douching and enemas are also used. Rinsing the rectum with water. They squirt water up their butts. And just generally keeping clean. Apparently, this is, according to Grok, it's effective. It's not foolproof. And it says right here, poop can still happen. As the rectum isn't a sterile tube. No crap. Yes, pun intended. No crap. Guys, I don't really know what to say about this. This is mind blowing. The fact that I actually had to look up this much information on gay butt sex is a real sign that there's some people with some real issues. You do you. I don't care what you do in your bedroom. But as I said from the beginning, why do we have a month dedicated to celebrating this crap? No pun intended. Yeah, pun intended. Why do we have a whole month focused on what people are sticking in their rear ends? I mean, first of all, I'm not sure why you're sticking anything in your rear end. That's a one-way sign for me, and it ain't in. So, but I guess there are a lot of Lindsey Graham type people out there, and not suggesting that Lindsey Graham is a gay butt sex haver, but there are rumors, and who knows if they're true or not. But we're going to use it anyways because it's funny, though we admit it is not necessarily proven. But regardless, that's what the HelloFresh controversy is about. And in case you wanted to know, now you do. All right, before we get into some other really critical things, I need your support. So please, givesendgo.com/Renzlaw. Givesendgo.com/Renzlaw. Listen, nobody controls what we're talking about. We don't sell ourselves out. We talk about the truth regardless of whether anybody likes it or not. And that's why you learn things about gay butt sex and Hello Pride or Hello Fresh or whatever the hell these guys are and their bottoms up campaign, which is apparently a gay butt sex ad campaign. I guess that must be their target market. But if you're not into that and you want to know the truth about things, please support us. GiveSendGo.com/Renzlaw. Your support keeps us going and allows us to provide public service announcements like, hey, maybe you should avoid gay butt sex instead of just worrying about this sort of stuff. Also, support us at TomRenz.com, www.TomRenz.com. Click on shop, go to shop partners and affiliates. Anything you could ever want, you can get a discount on. Starting with Global Healing and men's hormone support, which I love. I love my friends at Global Healing, some of the best people out there. Wonderful, wonderful people, great products, the most natural, most effective supplement line on the market. There's really nothing like Global Healing out there. So please, globalhealing.com/TomRenz. Check out HaleandAssociates.net, HaleandAssociates.net. They are fiduciaries. They will back you. They will support you. They will sell you things that are good for you, not just good for them. That's what being a fiduciary means. So make sure you check out Hale and Associates. And today, scroll down a little bit to my Paleo Valley friends. I love Paleo Valley. Actually, I got their NeuroEffect. I love their NeuroEffect supplement. I've got their apple cider vinegar supplement. I've got their beef liver supplement. Oops, that's not very good, is it? Right there. Beef liver. I got a whole bunch of their stuff. I love their supplements. They're more than just, I thought Paleo Valley was just like beef sticks. No, they've got a whole line of healthy supplements for great healthy proteins and all sorts of other things. If you're into paleo in any way, shape, or form, or carnivore, which is pretty closely related, just, carnivore is a little less with the fruits and veggie stuff. Please check out Paleo Valley. Wonderful groups. If you use my partner link, you will get a 15% 20% discount on the entire store. These are good people, good store, great products. Love Paleo Valley. Make sure you're checking them out. They are a great group, and we love them as a sponsor. All right, let's move into to the show. I was looking, and right now we're seeing California steal the votes. We see a whole bunch of stuff going on. We see this. I mean, of course, there's the LA mayor race with Pratt. And Pratt was very, very, I mean, he was looking very, very good. But of course, running for office in California is really meaningless because California has formally and fully embraced voter fraud. Your vote really doesn't count in California. It's irrelevant. It really is. I don't know how else to explain it. California, literally, so you can look at these tweets right here, this first one. California allows first-time voters to register using things like a gym membership card, an employer ID card, a credit card, prescription drug label, insurance card. So really, there's nothing, right? There's no way, shape, or form does California actually care about your vote or whether it's legal. Now, this is being looked into by Harmeet Dillon and a number of other people. Now, nobody's doing anything about it, of course, but they're looking into it, which I guess is meaningful to someone. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see some lawsuits on it, and they're doing work on it. But if you look at California, you go down to the next tweet here, you can see Meet Doris. She lives in California, is registered as a 126-year-old who has voted in 51 elections and has no idea. 126 years old and voted 51 elections, right? I mean, you can just keep going, and there's more and more. Tens of thousands of homeless people in Los Angeles might be responsible for the last-minute Nithya Raman surge over Spencer Pratt. They're trying to make sure Spencer Pratt can't get elected. Over and over again, we see fraud, and there's just the California elections are a joke. They're an absolute joke, and there's nothing there, right? So you've got California's all mail, no ID ballot harvesting, right? They've got this whole system there. They've got universal mail-in ballots for all registered voters. So everybody gets a ballot. It doesn't matter whether you're going to vote or not, which just means that they allow these different vote harvesting groups to steal those ballots and put fake arguments in, right? And they can come in late, they can come in early. Their voter roll isn't just inaccurate; it's absurd. And they've got, there's ongoing investigations, admissions, all sorts of things. They purposely slow count so that they can backfill with fake votes, and it just there's no way in this planet you can look at what's going on in California and argue that anything about it has anything to do with a fair election. California is where our entire election system is going, yet we couldn't pass the SAVE Act that has 80% support, bipartisan support across the country, because there is no Congress, right? There's no Democrats or Republicans in Congress. There's a uniparty, and that uniparty is controlled by special interests. Now, there's been a lot of talk about AIPAC's influence, but I want to propose this to you guys. AIPAC certainly is way, way, way overrepresented in Congress, and they're corrupt as hell. But AIPAC isn't the only group. You have to understand that AIPAC is a very good example of corruption and fraud that we have in Congress, right? There's all but I think 64 elected people in Congress that are not AIPAC funded. And so, when it comes to Israel issues, like selling our military secrets to Israel or giving them to them on a permanent basis, we see Congress just all over this, right? They're fans of it. They're all over it. It's a big thing. And they continue to do these things. Well, that same thing occurs everywhere. The big pharma influence in Congress, right? The big tech influence, the big this influence, the big that. All these different influence groups essentially control Congress. And what you have to understand is these groups all realized a while back, the pendulum swings back and forth, right? We go from Democrat to Republican to Democrat to Republican. And so what that means is that governance has never been real consistent in this country. It used to be that we were always consistently accountable to the Constitution, but we're long past that. Nobody cares about the Constitution at this point, right? So Congress goes back and forth between Democrat and Republican. And what was happening for a number of years, and I'd say this goes back to the 80s, 70s, maybe, in there, is the Democrats would push for one group of special interests. The Republicans would push for another. And so, one group would get in power and you'd push one way, and the Democrats would push these kind of liberal and sane agendas. And then the Republicans would get in power and you'd have the neocon agenda. And then it'd go back and forth and back and forth. Well, what's happened is eventually the people that have all the money, the people who control everything, realized that this back and forth was very unproductive for business, right? So some years you've got the government backing one thing, other years you got them opposing the same thing. And so over time, what's occurred is industry leaders, billionaires, globalists realized that they really need to have a hand in both parties. So what the cost of controlling our government is high, but it was worth it because there's trillions of dollars at stake. So these billionaires and these globalists are now spending billions to control all these Congress people on both sides. And so you see people who control both sides. And they use that control to really create a true uniparty. There is no difference between the Democrats and Republicans on a lot of issues, right? Neither party will actually vote or protect Maha. Neither party will actually vote or protect American sovereignty. Israel is, and what's occurring in Iran is a disaster. And it's being positioned as an attack on the Israel thing's a really interesting thing by itself, right? Because anybody who opposes crooked Benjamin Netanyahu is being called an anti-Semite, when the reality is that's not at all the case. I, for one, my mentor is a Nuremberg prosecutor. I'm a long ways from anti-Semitic. But I think Benjamin Netanyahu is a piece of crap. He's a crooked monster who spent billions of dollars funding Hamas as they were killing his own people through Qatar. He poisoned his people with the COVID vaccines. And he issued a stand-down order on October 7th, he or someone in his administration did, allowing the worst terrorist attacks in Israeli history. Benjamin Netanyahu is probably more anti-Israel than most anti-Semites. But no one seems to be able to say anything about him, or AIPAC claims that AIPAC, who he controls, claims that they're anti-Semitic and then uses Congress to push us, right? So what we're seeing is government takeover by special interest in both parties that's resulting in absolutely nothing useful for the American people, and it's really circumventing our Constitution in every way, shape, and form, right? This is why you can't pass any good common sense election reform, including the SAVE Act or anything else. So I kind of want to go into some of this, right? Because there's kind of two separate themes that I want to really examine today, but I think they're one and the same, and they don't seem the same, but they are, and I want to tie them together. And that's Maha and the Iran war, right? Now, this is going to take some explaining to do. So this is going to take me a minute to get through, so bear with me on this. What do Maha and the Iran war have in common? They are both being controlled by globalist billionaires and elitists who are pushing for an agenda and using the uniparty to control our country on it. Let me explain. And by the way, I'm actually going to give an out to big tech on this. Yeah, that's right. I am. Because I think one of the things you've got to understand about big tech is while a lot of the leadership of big tech is insane liberal globalist monster, at the end of the day, the companies do what they do because the companies care only about making money, and they can't do it when they're at risk of being regulated out of business, right? Now, let me make this argument. Look at some of these big tech billionaires. Do you really think they give a damn about the issues that we face every day? No, they don't care. They care about their money, their power, their wealth. So, the people, for example, largely distrust pharma and hate big pharma. In fact, let me go through a little bit here, right? Pharmaceutical distrust. 90% of voters expressed deep concern, according to this poll that Trump's administration has hidden. 90% of voters expressed deep concern over the corrupting influence of Big Pharma. 90%. That's bipartisan. That's an issue that is so powerful that it's mind-blowing, and it's the single best example I can give of this. 88% of Americans agree that the healthcare system prioritizes profits over patient health. 88%. 75% of Americans believe the government fails to adequately regulate harmful chemical additives in the food supply. And 88% agree that the environmental chemicals pose a far greater health risk than is publicly acknowledged. So across the board, you have 80 to 90% bipartisan agreement that pharma, big ag, big chemical, all these different groups are evil. Why can't we pass legislation? And further, why can't we talk about it? Well, the reason is that the big money controls Congress and controls administration. And because of that, they won't pass legislation that the people want that would support MAHA, that would support the MAHA agenda. Nobody likes the glyphosate order, but yet it's there. Why? Well, because of the money. Nobody wants Obamacare, but yet it's there. Why? Because of the money. Nobody likes these things. Now, it's twisted. They use polling, they use this, they use that, and try and lie and get around it. But at the end of the day, 90% of voters have extreme distrust for Big Pharma. 88% think that the healthcare system prioritizes profits over people, and 75% believe that we don't properly regulate chemicals. 88% agree that these chemicals are much bigger risks than is publicly disclosed. Why? How can you say that this isn't an easy win and popular? Of course it is. But yet, if you talk about it online, you're suppressed and censored. Why is that? Well, because even though big tech knows that a majority of people would love it, if the stuff that I post would be universally well received if it wasn't censored. It'd be huge. 90% of the people like the stuff that I'm saying here, but yet my reach is limited everywhere. Why is that? Well, because if the truth that I post, mind you, this data is backed up, it's accurate. There's polling, there's data that's backing this up, but yet big tech won't let it have reach. Why? Well, because they are constantly threatened. Now, big tech absolutely has monopolies. There's no question about that. They also have not only monopolistic control, but they have Section 230 immunity. What's happening right now is Congress is sitting there and they're saying to big tech, if you don't suppress this, we're going to pull your Section 230 immunity and let you get sued into oblivion. If you don't suppress this, we're going to come after you with some antitrust regulation enforcement, right? So the administration and Congress leverage this control over big tech to make sure the things that we're saying here are suppressed. And the things that many others are saying. It's suppressed because they don't want it out there. If it was out there, people would realize how evil and how controlled our Congress administration is. You can't have the conversation because it would affect, people would rise up. They'd revolt over this. They're being poisoned. Everybody knows they're being poisoned. But the profits from pharma, big ag, big chemical, all these different groups are so profound that they can own these Congress people and force these Congress people to control big tech. And big tech basically says, listen, it's just not worth the fight. We're just going to do what they say because at the end of the day, we don't want to get broken up and have it. This is a money decision. It's a financial decision, right? Now, yes, you're right. A lot of the big tech leaders just go ahead and agree. But do you think these guys are so ideologically aligned that they wouldn't do this if they could make more money off of it? They wouldn't let free speech occur if it wasn't more money? No, that's not the case. The biggest problem with these big tech monopolies is not that these big tech monopolies won't let the majority of people say what they want to say. It's that they can't, because they would lose their monopolies. They would lose their billion-dollar empire, trillion-dollar empires, and they would get shut down because none of them are powerful enough to afford to fight all of these other entrenched industries. And free speech is truly the enemy of the corruption that's occurring on a global scale. It is profound what's occurring. Absolutely profound. What we see over and over again is corruption and censorship because it doesn't suit the interests of the Congress people and administration officials that are bought and paid for by this nonsense. This is a phenomenal thing. Now let's talk about this. Now, we can go to the COVID vaccines, right? We can go to the COVID vaccines. I can see I've got right here. Let me see. Where is it? Here you go. Texas AG. So I like this guy, by the way. Paxton. So Paxton is probing Bayer, Pepsi over glyphosate in kids' foods. Right here it is. You can see it. Mike can pop this up on the screen real quick. Ken Paxton, who seems to have not quite gotten the memo that he needs to shut up. He's actually doing what people want, is investigating these poisons, right? This is a disastrous thing for, Bayer and PepsiCo, because it puts this out there and it's hard to cover it up. And depending on what Paxton finds, well, this could very easily cause a huge kerfuffle. Not that the DC crooks will do anything about it, but it's still a big deal. This information is very, very suppressed, and it was in the news for a minute and then hidden again. But if you talk about it, you're going to be suppressed. There's no reach on Twitter. Yes, I am saying X. The suppression, remember, freedom of speech is not freedom of reach on X. That's why I can post something that should be getting 500,000 views and get maybe a few thousand, because they don't let anybody see it. They don't want anybody to see it. Do you know how many people have said to me, I didn't know anything about Section 224 of the National Defense Authorization Act? That's the section that gives Israel total control of our military, or total access to our military. I mean, it's insane. People don't even know it's out there because it's so suppressed. There's a very small circle of people who know what's going on. The rest have no idea. That's why they suppress this show. By the way, share, like. If you want to get the word out, you're going to have to share and like, because it's the only way we get the word out. People don't understand the importance of clicking share and clicking like. It's the only way to get the word out, because we're exceedingly suppressed. This is by design. If big tech doesn't suppress me, big tech runs the risk of losing their 230 protections and their monopolies being broken up. This is why we should never have monopolies. If we actually had places that we could that competed, people would just go to the platform that told the truth. But since we won't enforce any antitrust regulation, we just allow these big tech monopolies to run rampant. That's a real problem. But there's no room for smaller platforms. I could post this stuff on Getter and get as much viewership as you can get, but it won't work because Getter doesn't have as many people. I like Getter as a platform, by the way. It's pretty open, a very good platform. I'm small there because it's a small platform, but it's still a very good platform. Shout out to my friends at Getter. This is appalling, and it's happening everywhere. Now, let's look at what's going on and why this is happening, right? I want to make this argument. Now, I'm working on an article that I may publish and see if I can get published somewhere on this, because it's interesting when we look at this that maybe, I don't want to say big tech isn't evil, because, well, they largely are. I mean, if they weren't trying to protect their monopolies and their Section 230 nonsense, none of this would be happening. But this is how things work, right? They have to control the levers of communications. They can't have people communicating. The internet by itself would end tyranny on a global scale if there is free and open communication. If people could actually talk and share real data, it would change everything immediately. which is why, as much as I appreciate what Elon Musk has done on X, he's very misguided in terms of his understanding of this freedom of speech, and freedom of reach. Essentially, what he's doing is making it, but that freedom of speech and freedom of reach position that X has taken has actually had the opposite effect of what we would like it to have. The idea that you can say something but no one can hear it gives everybody the feeling that they have free speech, but since no one sees it, it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't matter that I have a much bigger account than many people. Much smaller accounts that post things like a dog pic or a cooking pic, they get far, far, far more reach because it's not controversial, right? So, I guess I need to talk about Israel and the Iran war in a cooking context. I don't know, maybe that would work, right? So, anyways, what's happening here now is this suppression. So let's talk about some empirical data, right? Let's talk about this. Global interception spike. Okay, so according to Global Digital Rights Watch, they did 2026. Official government mandates demanding content restrictions, page takedowns, regional geo-blocking across tier 1 social media networks surged by 312% globally. Now, this creates a whole additional issue, right? Why? Because remember, big tech not only has to censor for what our government in the US is saying, they have to deal with censorship differently in different countries based on what the different governments are saying, because nobody likes actual free speech. Now, if one country could agree on free speech, if America could actually allow free speech like it was required under the First Amendment, that changes everything, because everybody will look at what's posted in America and that'll change the whole world. It would actually be the single most impactful tool against tyranny globally that we could have is true free speech in the United States, but we won't have it. And newsflash, guys, Trump has his own special interests just like everybody else. Trump is not supporting free speech any more than anyone else. He doesn't want the 90% of people who dislike his position on Maha issues to have free speech, because that'd be devastating for him politically. Everybody's got their own buddies, and too much power corrupts. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. Doesn't matter who's there, good guy, bad guy. This is a mistake that every politician is making. As soon as you become a politician, you fall into this, which is why I don't trust any politician. 312% globally. Now, this creates a real conundrum, because the stuff that Israel wants taken down, the stuff that Iran wants taken down, are totally opposite things. But both want it taken down. The stuff that China wants taken down and the stuff that America wants taken down are very much different things, but both want things taken down. So the tools of censorship and suppression become global, and it becomes a very complex mess for big tech to deal with, because big tech simply is going to be forced to deal with suppression one way or another somewhere. No one can just put a social media network out that allows for free speech, because some government somewhere is going to sue them for something. And that's the truth of the matter, right? Now, we could build a true free speech platform in the United States, but our government won't allow it. And investors won't allow it, because someone's going to get hurt somewhere. And also because the globalists that run everything are invested everywhere. So they're, whatever you're speaking on is going to affect one of them somewhere. So what's happening is the internet is now becoming a tool for pushing propaganda rather than pushing actual true free speech and debate. This is a foundational issue. Domestic surveillance and data disclosure. Proton Transparency Index documents that federal, state, and local government requests for private social media and user metadata account contents increased by 770% over the last decade. Silicon Valley conglomerates collectively disclose private records for more than 3.5 million user accounts, for fulfilling these state requests at an average compliance rate of 70 to 90% without requiring a formal public warrant. They just share the data because they can. Their user agreements, those OK boxes that you keep signing, say go ahead and do it. Now, here's one that's going to get me into trouble. The Israeli cyber unit compliance rate, internal files and registry audits from the Israeli State Attorney's Cyber Unit reveal that tech platforms operate an expedited pipeline for state flagging. Meta and YouTube complied with 94% of voluntary non-warrant requests from Israel. 94%. All Israel's got to do is say, hey, take this down, and it's down. Mediterranean Human Rights Monitor data show that researchers found that platforms process state-directed content removal flags in an average of under 120 minutes, less than 2 hours. And it worked standard human in-the-loop review mechanisms. They were bypassed in over 85% of flagged accounts. Just, you're done. You can't talk about it. The result is that nobody people are realizing this. People realize this even if they don't know this data. So what's happening is nobody trusts anybody. In terms of Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu's tyrannical approach to things, what's happening is it's fueling anti-Semitism on a profound level. Anti-Semitism is up because it's really easy for everybody to blame the Jews when it's not really the Jews. It's Benjamin Netanyahu's misguided tyrannical approach to what's occurring here. You can't talk about what's happening with Benjamin Netanyahu's corrupt regime, and so people blame the Jewish people instead of blaming Benjamin Netanyahu. This is disastrous. It's causing this explosion in anti-Semitism that really shouldn't be about the Jewish people. It should be about crooked Benjamin Netanyahu, any more than we should hate Americans for the suppression of free speech here on big pharma issues. It's not Americans, it's the corrupt government. It's the Susie Wiles crew that are bought and paid for by Big Pharma and Congress and Tom Tillis and Cassidy and people like that are owned by Big Pharma. That's the problem. It's not the people of Israel. It's not the people of America. It's their tyrannical leaders and the globalist special interests that are trying to control everything. And they're doing this intentionally. The globalist elites that are controlling everything don't care if we hate each other. They don't care if we're at each other's throats. They've long used racism and sexism and division to promote their goals. Look at the Southern Poverty Law Center that pays the Ku Klux Klan and these Nazi groups millions of dollars to do what they do so that they can then claim that there's an issue. The same thing's happening with Benjamin Netanyahu, the American government, and everybody else on Maha issues and these other things. And what they're doing is they're stoking anti-Semitism. They're stoking corruption. They're stoking all of this to create issues. The reason nobody trusts public health is because public health doesn't exist. What you have is a corrupt system promoting lies. And then that system uses suppression and censorship to facilitate people misunderstanding what's actually occurring here. This is a phenomenal thing. And the result is profound. The result is that no one trusts anything anymore. They don't. They don't. But government uses these fake polls and these lies and this fake data to justify what they're doing, to justify suppression, right? This is creating a tremendous amount of friction and problem, right? So what's happening right now, according to the 2026 Edelman Trust Barometer, institutional credibility has fractured. 53% of global respondents distrust their national health care system. They don't trust public health. 53%. So when public health actually puts out something that's true and legitimate, this is like the boy who cried wolf. Nobody believes it. Over half the people will do the opposite of whatever the public health system says just because the public health system said it. There's no credibility. Audience displacement, right? So these academic people, these researchers track online health of communities, right? And there's different groups that do this. And When alternative health or political accounts face mainstream shadow bans, their followings migrate to alternative platforms. Following a shadow ban, engagement for these creators on unmoderated alternative networks, such as Telegram, Rumble, or specific decentralized networks, increases by an average of 240 to 400% within 90 days. It's not working, right? Because now the goal of the globalist elites is to get rid of these alternative networks. They don't like Telegram. They don't like Rumble. They don't like these networks that actually allow free speech. Now, these networks are growing phenomenally because they don't moderate, because they allow you to hear whatever there is. That's why you can follow me on Rumble. That's why my Rumble channel is growing, because we're allowed to speak on Rumble. Now, if Rumble could actually find ways to actually help you be discoverable, that would be great. You know, Rumble's a smaller platform, but if Rumble continues growing and doing what it's doing, we're gonna continue to explode on there. Rumble is a wonderful platform, and I support them wholeheartedly. And as they continue to develop, we'll continue to grow. But it's very risky, because if Rumble gets controlled, we're in trouble, right? So we're going to have to really watch that. The reach penalty metrics are ridiculous, right? Public health topics, data around public health topics shows that mainstream platforms, they use these automated health misinformation classifiers, right? And they flag any specific phrases related to alternative agriculture, vaccine skepticism, criticisms of FDA, CDC, and they automatically have a 90% organic reach penalty, which is a shadow ban. It's real, 90%. So they just make it so you can't find anything that I'm talking about. Everything I'm talking about is covered up. It's hidden, right? So this is 90%, guys. 90%. That's how bad it is, right? This is documented. This is documented. We see this happening. And again, when you see a 94% rate that pulls down anyone talking about anything that Israel's doing as bad, you see a situation where no one can everybody starts calling Jewish people evil when that's not the case. It's not anti-Semitism. It's Benjamin Netanyahu's tyranny that nobody likes, right? But people get it mixed up because all you see is this push by Netanyahu to try and say anybody that disagrees with him is anti-Semitic. Well, Benjamin Netanyahu's done more to damage the people of Israel and the Jewish people than most anti-Semites could ever dream of. His COVID vaccine push was more damaging to the health of people of Israel than anything I could ever list. Then you throw in the fact that his administration, someone in there or had the stand down order on October 7th, and the billions of dollars he funded Hamas with through Qatar. I mean, Benjamin Netanyahu is arguably responsible for more death and damage to the Jewish people of Israel than anyone else on the planet. But yet, he's not flagged and everyone else is. This is insane. Then you throw in the fact that comments from Palestinian territories are shut down from 80% to 25%, right? Their reach. I mean, you're seeing this. This is insane. But it's not just them. Iran does the same thing. Iran shut down the internet, right? They didn't want anybody to hear. So the tech companies are now working in a environment where no matter what happens, they have to deal with being shut down. So they're just doing the best that they can in these different environments. Now, I'm not saying they're good faith at all. I'm not trying to defend big tech because they're doing AI data centers and control this, that, and other. But the reason all this is being pushed is because our governments want total tyrannical control over everything we see, hear, and know. This is the governments trying to control everyone. This is tyranny. This is tyranny from top to bottom. The governments are trying to make sure that the elites that run these huge monopolies stay rich so that they comply. But by doing so, what they're doing is creating a situation where all of these big tech elitists have to censor and have to control messaging. And these platforms are no longer about speech, they're about control. That is where they are. That is what they do. And it's backfiring in a lot of ways because everybody can see it, but no one actually understands it, right? The data is there. The data can be pulled out. You can see what's actually happening, but it's a very complex system. And I'm going to go out there and say, I mean, we all know that politically people like Mark Zuckerberg, they're not like us. But at the same time, if Mark Zuckerberg had to make a decision between free speech and his billions of dollars, he's going to take his billions of dollars every time. And since his billions of dollars are being propped up because he's censoring free speech, that's why you're seeing the censorship. If you made it so that he would be in trouble or his money was at risk by censoring, well, that would be a different animal. But our governments are doing the opposite. Our governments are promoting censorship, and that's the left, the right, and everybody else. It doesn't matter which government or who's in control. Every one of them uses every legal tool available to ensure that big tech is only spouting their talking points and suppressing everything else. This is why there's no free speech. Okay? It's not anything else. We can't earn public health. And the thing is, it's backfired. Anti-Semitism is exploding. Public health is distrusted universally. And it's because you can't have a transparent debate about it. You can't speak about it. They haven't been able to shut down free speech entirely. The First Amendment provides just enough protection that they can't shut it down entirely. So there's still huge communities and alternative mechanisms for getting the truth out. If we were to embrace Maha properly, this would absolutely explode. It would absolutely explode. We need big influencers to realize this and start really developing and supporting these alternative platforms, because if they do it, it's going to have a huge impact. It would also really push towards freedom in a profound way, tremendously. A tremendous push towards freedom. It would have a giant impact. We really need to figure out a solution to this, and we don't have one because our leaders on both sides of the political aisle use these tools the same ways. One thing that's true about every politician, is at the end of the day, they're worried about the next election. Term limits would help that tremendously. That's why term limits will never pass. The politicians don't want it, and the lobbyists don't want it, even though everybody thinks there should be term limits. Nobody likes it because the politicians and the lobbyists all know that term limits would mean people weren't as accountable to the lobbyists. And so it caused a tremendous amount of problem. Further, it would require that the lobbyists had to spend a lot more money buying off the politicians with promises of future jobs than they do right now. And so it comes back to the money again. Ultimately, the whole point of this show and where I wanted to go with this was the fact that free speech is the solution to tyranny. And we need to look a little bit deeper. It's not just a big tech problem, okay? Big tech is the tool. Government is the problem. Government corruption. The uniparty is the problem. The globalist elites that have bought both parties and control the levers of government are the problem. And it is a bit of the chicken and the egg because big tech has a lot of influence. But I want to propose this to you guys. Maybe it's not just big tech. Maybe it's the fact that big tech, while big and powerful in their space, is just one of the many globalist influences out there. And the culmination of the power of the banking cartels, the neocon war machine, the big pharma machine, the big ag machine, the big chemical machine, all of these different special interests combined are so much more powerful than big tech by itself that big tech has two options. It can either get in line or it can get destroyed. Either way, these special interests aren't going to let go of their control over the government, and they're going to leverage it to attack anyone that becomes a threat. If big tech allows free speech, it would be a huge boon to big tech in terms of people supporting them. I mean, when Twitter started to allow free speech and quit banning people, it exploded. But now the shadow banning has crept in pretty severely, and the censorship has crept back in pretty severely. So it's struggling a bit now. It's just not doing as well. People want free speech, but the amount of money and power out there, ready, willing, and able to oppose free speech, is so much that the market can't drive it. Capitalism is skewed. This isn't capitalism is being skewed by corruption. That's what's occurring here. Until we get a rein on the corruption, until we get a handle on the corruption, nothing changes. We have got to fix what's occurring with this corruption. If we want, there needs to be accountability. When people are corrupt, they need to go to jail. Until that starts happening, nothing else changes. That's why the Epstein files are so important. Until we can hold global elites accountable under the law in the same way that everybody else is, nothing changes. And it's a testament to the Epstein files are a testament to how corrupt we've become. We can't even put global elites that rape children in jail now because that's how much influence they have. We can't expect our government to ensure or allow free speech to occur when we can't even put a child rapist in jail. We can't expect them to do the right thing anywhere when they cannot even put someone in jail who rapes a child. This is all very interconnected. We are experiencing a time in America where corruption has overtaken the Constitution. Until that corruption starts getting weeded out, there is no hope. That's why, I spend so much time focusing on the DOJ, the two-tier justice system, the complete failure that was Pam Bondi, the complete failure that is Todd Blanche, the complete failure of every AG Trump has ever appointed, because they're just not getting it done. And until we start seeing them get it, and I mean, Trump himself said, well, with Epstein files, well, too many of my friends would go to jail. So what? If your friends are raping children, they belong in jail. I'm sorry. And if you don't support that, then you and I disagree pretty strongly on that issue. We have got to get rid of the corruption from top down. The Epstein files represent the importance of the issue, but let me assure you, the issue is about message and control. The solution is free speech. But we've got to, until we get rid of some of the corruption, it'll never happen. There is no free speech. You have to look at this from a systemic point of view. And that's the reason that we don't have this. All right, guys. I want to thank you guys for listening. I know this was a fairly detailed show and there's a lot of complexity to what I'm saying. So really kind of dig into it and think it through. Watch the show twice, share it. This is a very, very important show. I've kind of been thinking on it all weekend, how to put it out there, because it's a nuanced and complex argument to make, and it takes a little bit of effort. So think about what we're saying here and get it shared. Help me share this show. Help me make this show big. Thank you guys for watching. GiveSendGo.com/RenzLaw. GiveSendGo.com/RenzLaw. Also, TomRenz.com. Support Paleo Valley, Global Healing, Hale and Associates, all of our sponsors. You get great discounts if you use our links. Thank you guys for listening. We will be back very soon.